how the audience will determine the future of our business. I think the most important element to the future is understanding how the audience is changing. This is the key to your business. One concept is transforming this business above all others, and that is that previously, citizens had to adapt their behavior to suit the patterns of the news media. People had to be home at 6:30 to watch the news. They had to get up, go to the curb and read the morning paper or tune into the Today Show to know what the weather would be, to keep up with the sort of the patterns and the cycle that their friends had about the news. Today, that has been reversed. The news media, you have to adapt your behavior to fit the behavior of the consumer. We are in a user-controlled media world. Now, while that has been scary and disruptive, this shift, this democratization of information, in many ways mirrors the shift that happened during the Enlightenment. Before the printing press, it took a monk 1 year to hand copy one Bible. After the printing press, the press could print 180 Bibles in a year. 50 years after the printing press, there were 35,000 new books that had been written in Europe, and there were 10 million books in circulation. And Martin Luther introduced the idea of universal literacy, that people should be able to read the Bible for themselves to find their own path to enlightenment. 100 years after the printing press, the word fact first appears, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, in English. And in its way comes the Enlightenment, the Reformation, and more. And journalism, which is a product of the Enlightenment. Today, those who thrive will have to understand how the audience for our new printing press is behaving, the new public. And they have to believe that journalism is going to be better because of the new tools created to inform citizens. You have to see technology as an opportunity. So I want to offer 6 lessons today that I see in the research. And in each piece of research I'm going to refer to is something that I see in more than one place. So there's just more than one little bit of data on this. First, audiences are consuming more news, not less, as a result of technology. 1/4 of all people say they now get more news than they used to. 10% say less. But the numbers are much more powerful among people who use mobile technology. 32% of people who have mobile devices get more news than they used to, versus 8% who say they get less because they're doing other stuff. The second lesson is that technology has almost certainly increased your audience and made it younger. The average age of a newspaper reader in print is 54 years old. The average age of a mobile newspaper reader who reads on tablets or mobile phones is 37, 17 years younger. And the average age of a new cohort that we call mobile only, that's people who only consume news on tablets and smartphones from newspaper media, is 33 years old. 59% of adults under 40, 18 to 39, read newspaper content on a weekly basis. Let me repeat that. Let me have a whole slide for that. 59% of people 18 to 24, I said at 29, 18 to 24 read newspaper content regularly on some device. But they're doing it digitally, and you significantly have the mobile phone to thank for that. I said that your audience would probably be smaller without this technology. Print newspaper readership has fallen by 16%, according to Scarborough data, since 2006. But your total audience has dropped 10% for newspaper media content, which is less than most other media. 69% of all U.S. adults read newspaper content on a weekly basis or on mobile devices monthly, because we don't measure that weekly yet. The third big idea, I think, is that you need to understand something that I call the cycle of news discovery, or we might call it the personal news cycle. And that is that people move across platforms based on the time of day, the question they want to answer about a news story, and where they happen to be. Most people say that about half of people say they first hear about news from television sources. 83% say they then go to a second source, and 51% of those say that second source is in a different medium. And the majority, 60%, say when they go to that second source, it's to establish news brands. And basically 1 in 7 consumers, 7 out of 10 consumers, are loyal to brands across platforms. You need to learn how to leverage what marketers are beginning to call the synergy of screens. The idea that people are going to come to you, if you make it convenient and easy for them to do so, to your brand across different screens depending on what they're doing. And the newest research suggests that advertising, which is not irrelevant to this convention, works better when people have seen that same or some version of that ad before on another screen inside your domain. And here's why mobile is so important. Smartphone and tablet owners are twice as likely to pay for news as other consumers. They're also more likely to consume more of your content. They're also more likely to be loyal. Smartphone and tablet owners are your friends. The fourth big idea is that your future is mobile. It's also social, but right now it is mobile. If you look at this yellow line going up, that's mobile. It will be your primary digital platform in 3 to 5 years. My guess is more like 3. It really is. Mobile is the real Web 2.0. It is your second chance. It is the opportunity to move and react in ways that the news industry didn't in the first decade. You've heard some of these things before, and you're going to hear it more over the next couple of years. 30% of newspaper readership, according to New Scarborough data, is mobile now. Your numbers may be a little different inside your papers, but probably fairly similar to that. It grew by 58% mobile newspaper readership last year. It is going to continue to grow. We're well over 50% smartphone. We're at 35% tablet ownership, and these are your target audiences. There really is a significant movement now that suggests that you should be designing digitally mobile first, and then back to the web. This is what ESPN now does. It grew its mobile traffic by 59% last year. Its mobile and digital audience is second in the ESPN family, behind ESPN1, ahead of ESPN2. It will surpass its television audience fairly soon. And they have a very simple concept at ESPN: serve the fan. That's their mission statement: serve the fan. They don't think of themselves as a cable company, as a television company. They think of themselves as a company that serves the fan. NPR designs mobile first, as we heard yesterday. BuzzFeed is now 45% mobile. BuzzFeed is a company that began doing viral stuff because they said people were bored at work. That was their audience, bored at work. Now their audience, or 45% of it, is what they call bored in line. The other thing is that mobile is a strength for local news publishers because mobile is very local. It's about walking around. It's about where you are right now. It is less about particularly mobile phones, less about sort of being lying in bed. Tablets a little different. The other message I would give you here is do not wait for the revenue to emerge before you move to mobile. Create the products now and explore where the revenue comes. That is what an emerging company does. It builds brand and market share and then tries to figure out a revenue model after. That's what a VC would tell you. That's what you need to do. In mobile, you are an emerging company. El Nuevo Dia, which is in Puerto Rico, doubled its mobile in a year from 4.4 to 9% by simply creating mobile products with very little R&D, very little of the resources that a lot of other publishers have. They just did it, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what kind of mobile products in a minute, but they did it and it worked. The other element of this is social. This social surpassed time spent on social media, surpassed time spent on portals in 2011. This year, 163 million Americans will be on social networks. That's well over half the U.S. population. It is expected to grow to 183 million, up 17% by 2017. And there is enormous potential here. The Deseret News, which some people like to discount because it's a unique model in Salt Lake, here's one lesson I think everyone can take from Deseret. They went from 100,000 social media followers to 24 million in 1 year. How did they do it? They have their content areas that they specialize in. They then identified what they considered the passions of people in their community, the things that people were passionate about, not the topics that they covered, but the passions. They created social media channels around these passions, actually did it in different languages, and then moved their content into these social media channels that they had created. They didn't try and bring people into their website. They created spaces where people were already having these conversations, or created spaces for them to have it, and are now tracking the conversations that occur in these spaces, and then create content that day that matches what people are talking about, if it's in their core areas of expertise. The fifth idea I want to offer is there is no such thing as the online experience. Multiple screens has opened up our understanding of what digital means. What we used to think of digital was a crude oversimplification. We thought for 15 years that people wouldn't read long form online. The average time per page was 30 seconds. We were wrong. That was just behaviors mainly on computers and desktops in the office. We now know that behavior changes with time of day. It changes by device. Smartphones and tablets are used differently. It also changes significantly by place and context. Bored at work is different than stuck in line, and stuck in line at the movies is way different than stuck in line at the airport on a delayed flight, where people are reading books on their smartphones. It's also different than double screening a game. And mobile behavior varies by audience group. The mobile-only users are a growing cohort. There's a group that you would call power users who move across devices and use all their devices throughout the day. There are casual but loyal users. A number of publishers are beginning to look at different price points for digital subscriptions, including a lower price point for casual users who want 2 or 3, maybe 10 stories a month, but are not willing to pay the full access. This is a chart you saw a version of yesterday. Hopefully this is a little cleaner. Basically, these different lines represent different platforms through the course of the day. And what this chart tells us is that print reading spikes around breakfast. It picks up again after the commute is over. That may be people who stay at home. It may be people who get to work and start reading the newspaper again. I've known a few editors who tend to do that. People use computers at work right before lunch. Smartphone usage occurs all day. Tablet consumption spikes after dinner. But there are different audiences here. So the notion of designing a tablet app that is an evening product that doesn't post short iterative content all day long, but is designed to go long form. The kind of video that people watch in the office is different than the kind of video they watch at home. ESPN, across all their platforms, found that there were only 6 videos in a month that were the most popular across all those screens. One of the reasons, at work, guys watching ESPN videos don't want audio because they're not supposed to be watching sports videos. They want short clips that they can watch. They don't want that long discussion on SportsCenter that was interesting that they might watch at night. The other thing is your audience cohorts. These are the demographics from one newspaper that has worked very hard at building younger demographics. You can see there Gen Y is 17% of their audience, Boomers are 27%, Gen X is 40%, and the golden gen, God, I hope I'm not a golden gen. I think I'm a boomer still, are 16%. Not bad. They've been able to move their on, and they did it by going mobile first. So the journalism of the future has to understand the rhythms of the news day, of place, of multiple audiences in new ways. I said before that we used to think that that digital meant people didn't read long form. We really thought this for the first 15 years. Long form reading is now back, we know. 73% say they read long form sometimes on their tablets. 70% do so on their smartphones. And 20% are doing it daily on their tablets, and 11% daily on their smartphones. So people are as curious as they've ever been. And the technology is catching up to their curiosity. And the last concept I want to offer is there's a lot of talk about should you be responsive or is it an app world? I think the data increasingly suggests the answer is both. The future is responsive and app-oriented. Consider this, that on smartphones, 4 out of every 5 minutes is spent in an app. On tablets, it's closer to 50-50. Smartphone users like task-specific apps. Consider that the top 5 apps on iPhones is iTunes, Facebook, Yahoo Sports, Google Maps, and Google Weather. The top 5 Droid apps are Google Maps, Google Play, I don't even know what that is, Google Search, so Google Search is only third, Gmail, and YouTube. These are specific tasks that are easy to do. For a local publisher, this suggests that on your smartphone, you should be considering at least the possibility of task-specific apps. Garage sales, local and prep sports teams, open houses for real estate, local traffic, restaurants, you're walking around, what's open, different neighborhood apps, etc. Maybe you just have a hackathon one weekend and imagine the possibilities. But this goes beyond responsive design, which you probably also want and certainly want on your tablet. But your tablet may need to be an evening product. So we need to understand how people are using these devices and then design things that fit the way they operate. Again, yes to responsive design, but understand the rhythm of the day varies. Social apps for tasks on the go. And here's one other bugaboo, and any people who have heard me before may have heard this. It was not uncommon for people to say a few years ago, I'm platform agnostic. I don't care what platform I put it on, I want to put it on all of them. I think that notion is a mistake. I think you need to think about being platform orthodox. By that I mean understanding how people use different devices and when they use them. Exploit the potential of each technology and each device. Agnosticism suggests you're not sure. You don't care. You're ambivalent. I think that means you're going to be hesitant. So I want to save a little time for questions in case people have any. But the main message is that to thrive, those who will thrive in this moment of a new enlightenment are those who are going to understand their audience deeply, who will research, test, A/B test, ask their audience what they want, respect their audience, and not underestimate them. They are in charge, and if you exploit them or feel that your business is to leverage your audience for advertisers, you are working against the tide that our business is moving to. Increasingly, the audience is going to determine, is going to pay for more of our business and is going to determine what advertisers want. The message we got from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune last night about how much of a difference it made when they started designing these niche products for consumers rather than advertisers, I think is, a parable that illustrates this. The other concept is once your audience has seen something better than what you're offering, that becomes their expectation of what they want from you. Once you've seen that watch ESPN, you can get ESPN on any screen, you wonder, why doesn't everybody do this? It takes about one day for that expectation to change. So do what you do best. Be great at certain things. ESPN's mission, serve the fan. Deseret, be world-class at 6 things. The web rewards people who are good at a few things. It punishes the model that newspapers used to have, which is to be adequate at everything. And mobile rewards convenience and simplicity. It all leads to, I think, the notion that news will be less a static product. Here's our stories, here's our site, take it. And it will be more a service that makes the lives of your consumers, your citizens, and your communities better. Help them do tasks, help them save money, help them live their lives. It also means that there's a shift in how we have to present the news. Before, in that old model with that old editor from the Washington Star, trust equaled brand. The news spoke for itself. We didn't have to explain ourselves all that much. Today, trust equals transparency, evidence, convenience, and meeting people's expectations. New technology creates tools for better reporting. We need to see that technology as an opportunity. We need to embrace it, not as something to cope with and adapt to, but as something that can help us do our jobs better. And I think we need to see journalism as moving towards a collaborative intelligence in which the community are sources that make your journalism better. The machinery of the network are things that can count and are tools that can empower the journalism, and that we are organizers of all of this. Organizers, vetters. Your audience is not your rival. They are your ally. So, in short, what disrupted the industry, the audience, is now going to save us because we can engage with them more often, more deeply. We can be a better part of their lives if we're willing to use the technology to do that. People have what historians and ethnographers call an awareness instinct. They want to know what's going on beyond their direct experience. That's what we always provided. We can provide it in new ways. The old line that journalism was only as good as the person who owned the press is no longer true. Journalism is now as good as the curiosity of the consumer. Thanks very much. And we do have like 7 minutes for questions, if there are any. But they ain't.
Bill Sternberg, USA Today. So right now, you have a huge mismatch between where the audience is and where the advertising dollars are, particularly in the mobile space. You say the revenue will come, but we've seen that smartphones aren't a particularly advertising-friendly device, and people probably don't want to see ads on their smartphones. So where do you see the revenue coming from
Well, certainly more of it's going to come from the audience paying for the content directly. The New York Times is already at 50%, and I think that's going to continue, but that also is a challenge. If the audience is paying directly, you need to increase the value of what you're giving them. That means cutting back and managing costs and reducing the value of the content is not a long-term strategy. I also think that the business formerly known as advertising is going to take the shape of service and information. So digital agencies, but also e-commerce. You probably are all familiar with the concept of showrooming. Showrooming is people go in a store and they whip out their mobile phone and they say, can I buy this for less somewhere else? Well, local news publishers are in a cosmic war, allied with local retailers for local retail businesses to survive against the onslaught of Amazon and other online retailers. They are your natural allies. Your community needs these companies and these businesses to survive, and they need you to reach customers. It won't be with banner ads and pop-up ads on mobile phones. It will be in other information that you can provide them so that when they're in that store, they can say, oh, yeah, I'll buy it in that store. Maybe it's subscribers who get a matching discount that keeps them in the store if they subscribe to the newspaper. Maybe it's advanced information on sales. It's information that helps people shop and do business in your community. It may be a local version of Angie's List, or, as I say, a garage sale app. But it will be something that goes beyond go into the store because toasters are on sale and we're just trying to get you into the store. It's going to have to be more about action and information, and less just about go down to the store.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
So a lot of us care deeply about watchdog journalism and enterprise journalism and all of that good stuff, and I'm wondering where that fits into what you're talking about. It doesn't seem like what you're talking about, and that concerns me.
Well, I think it does fit into this, because I think that part of the key of the brand of any news organization is doing that kind of watchdog journalism. People expect the news organizations to monitor the powerful institutions in their community, and when they fail to do that, the public knows. While newsrooms have cut back, the surveys that we've done of newsrooms have suggested they have not cut back entirely. They've cut back on other areas more than they've cut back on Watchdog. Watchdog is enormously expensive, obviously. Watchdog is also a great way to use the community as a source, to be sentinels and help you do this work. The Guardian, I could have done a whole talk on open journalism at the Guardian and how they use users and readers to empower their journalism. The other thing is, I do not believe you can cover the Cincinnati or Toledo with nonprofit money, but you can significantly augment your accountability, your watchdog journalism with money from nonprofit sources if you set up firewall rules, many of which I think don't really exist yet, but you can there is money that is non-commercial for specialized content. It's just not the kind of witness-bearing reporting that costs so much of the budget of most newsrooms.
Great. Hi, my name is Ben Stein. I'm from Inside Science, a nonprofit news organization. And my question was about the balance between regular readers and new readers. In our content, we see we have a huge percentage of new users as opposed to returning users. That's something that we need to become accustomed to, is sort of new and one-time readers of content?
Yeah, I mean, a one-time reader is, a new reader is an opportunity, obviously. You have to figure out how to use them, how to engage them. One of the things that the Times did, it's really amazing if you get inside the New York Times and talk to them about the research they did to build the meter, because everybody thought they were going to fail. There was no precedent for this. We're a very imitative business. They didn't imitate. And they did this, I think, because they also failed with time select. Failing is what led them to the success of the meter. And the amount of research they did with all the different audiences, including casual audiences, people who only visited once or twice a month or less. So you want to, and one of the things they discovered was, if you ask these people what they want, it's a form of engagement that empowers these users anyway. They don't make a move without A/B testing. They don't make a move without asking people to be beta testers. They initially anticipated that they would kind of lean on their most loyal subscribers and charge them more because they thought they could get away with it, and came to the conclusion that these were their most loyal users and they didn't want to exploit them. So that instead what they would do is learn more about their more casual users. So new users, this is this group that we wouldn't have had without digital technology. I mean, I remember working with Andy Coat on a survey in 1990 called The Age of Indifference, and it said, young people are not going to go to old media because they don't like those platforms.
Hi, Neil Brown with the Tampa Bay Times. We just redesigned our site, and we went to responsive design, and I'm thinking it was a really good idea, and we're too late. that maybe if the journalistic approach for mobile is journalistic approach, not just the forum, is one thing, and it's one thing for the desktop, and it's one thing for the tablet, that maybe this sort of one-size-fits-all may be off.
I think, I mean, based on what I've learned from these guys who are mobile experts, you want responsive design because you want your portal to work on, but if all you're offering is your portal, you're missing all these opportunities. These mobile apps that are smartphone apps, that are tools that let people do things, are additive. They attach to and add to the brand. Some of your loyal users are going to say, yeah, I really want to have that Tampa Bay Times app to read the front page all the time. But a lot of people are going to say, wow, they've got this garage sale app that where I can find out where the garage sales are today. That's great, and it's GPS, and that's a way of bringing in people you wouldn't have had. So it's not. It is responsive and apps, according to these folks that we're talking to. Thank you very much for listening.